Hey everyone, this is Ben Cicchini, founder of Give and Grow, here with another episode of the Give and Grow podcast. For those of you that are new listeners, this is our social emotional learning series. So we break down social emotional skills, mental health ideas and practices with professionals in the industry. So today, super excited to introduce you to Melanie Rose. Melanie is a licensed professional counselor with her master's in education in behavior analysis and school counseling, specializing in emotional behavior disturbances out of Las Vegas, Nevada. So, Melanie, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Honestly, today has been one of those days I've had to put my tools to the test. I had to practice some breathing and some basketball earlier on, but overall, I'm feeling good about myself, feeling
Getting
good
those
about the
endorphins
practice.
pumping. A great way to relax the nervous system.
Exactly. So definitely excited to pick your brain today and just share with anybody, parents, teachers, other people in the just looking to help raise healthy, loving humans, with your tips and tools and tricks for everybody.
Okay, let's get into it.
So, Melanie, what is there to be excited about when it comes to social emotional learning, and why are you so passionate about it?
There's so much to be excited about when it comes to social emotional learning. So just like we have to learn how to tie our shoes, we have to learn how to wash our hands. It's the same thing with behaviors. We need to learn how to appropriately ask for what we want. We need to learn how to follow directions. We need to learn how to actively listen. These are things that I think often people think that we just automatically have these skills, but we don't. They need to
Hmm.
be modeled for us. They need to be taught to us. They need to be taught to us consistently. And I just think the reason why I'm so passionate about that is because life is hard. And if you don't have the regulation skills to cope with things that life throws at you, it's very hard to be successful. And so that's why
Hmm.
it's important that we start with our young people as young as babies to ensure that we grow successful, proactive adults.
Yeah, I love that, and I appreciate that, and it kind of brings into the conversation like you're a mother of a 3-year-old, as well as you just shared with me you have a kid on the way. Like when you're starting with babies on some of these skills, like how are you starting to approach even the youngest of kids?
So it's all by modeling, right? So if my child sees me and I'm frustrated, and if they see me storming around and screaming and yelling and saying things they shouldn't be saying, what are they going to do when they get upset? They're going to do the same thing. They're going to yell, they're going to scream. Another example is if my child learns every time that they cry, they get exactly what they want. Now, I'm not saying ignore your child, right? That's not what
Hmm.
I'm saying. We have to make sure that our basic needs are met. But, like, let's say every time you go to the store, your child cries, I want this, I want this. And you give in because you get embarrassed. And you're like, oh my gosh, please stop crying. They're
Hmm.
going to learn, oh, every time I cry, you get me something that I want.
Right.
So that's why it's important for even as young as babies, you model, oh, I'm so frustrated. You can say it out loud. Name your feelings. I am so frustrated right now. Mommy needs a break. I need to go take a walk. I need a second to myself. I'm upset because of XYZ.
Hmm.
Um, and then also setting clear, consistent boundaries. Um, Kids understand a lot more than you give them credit for. So even with my 3-year-old, even when he was 1 and 2, we're going to go do this today. We're not going to be able to get you X, Y, and Z. We're only here for groceries. And they might still cry and they might still have their moment in the sun because they're kids, right?
Hmm.
But you don't have to yell at them for that. You can remember what I told you. And I know it's hard. It's hard when we don't get what we want. But these are things that you can do at such a young age to make sure that they're set up
Yeah.
accordingly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I really appreciate you sharing the idea of just like verbalizing, like really talking out like what's going on for you as the adult, like not just leaving it up for their own interpretation or assumptions, but really like sharing that with them. Cause then I mean, in your opinion and in your experience, what does that do like with their brain or their understanding of what's going on?
It helps them recognize that when they start to feel upset, or it also helps them recognize how to name what they're feeling. Another thing that you can do is not just name your emotion, but name how you're feeling when you're feeling that emotion. Oh, I'm getting so hot. I feel like it's so hard for me to breathe right now. My chest is clenching. I feel like I'm going to cry. I am so upset. I'm so sad that this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Or even when you recognize that your child is getting upset. Ooh, I see that you're getting really red. You're clenching your fist. Your teeth are beginning to clench. That
Mm.
looks like you might be angry. Are you feeling angry right now?
Mm-hmm.
Teaching them how to name that feeling. And then if they shake their head yes, you could say, yeah, I'm angry. Yeah, I am sad that that happened. And then just
Mm-hmm.
validating that. Yeah, I totally understand. I get why you're feeling that way. Um, but also correlating with that, that's just how things are sometimes.
Right, right. And yeah, I really appreciate you using that same tool to like call out what you're noticing with them and help them get a better, oh, I am feeling a little bit warmer. Oh, my jaw is clenched right now. Now they're getting that ability and awareness really to be able to call out what they're feeling and then cope with it in the same ways that you're teaching, I need a walk, I need a breath, I need, some time to myself. Yeah, really just love everything that you're sharing so far, Melanie. What are some like fun activities or games that can help young children, whether it's develop some of these skills or specifically develop empathy?
Okay, so there are a bunch. So you can role play. You can role play situations. You can base it off things that happen in your everyday life. For example, losing a game. Not actually playing a game. Like, let's say you have a kiddo who's has a really hard time losing. Okay, so you're not going to actively play a game with them and then set them off on purpose, right? Because
Mm.
that's not going to work. But you can say, hey, I want to pretend that we're playing a game right now. And I want you to pretend um, that you just won the game. And I want you to be really loud about when I just won. And then when the kid starts, okay, yeah, they start doing that. And then I'm gonna tell them, I want you to recognize how I feel when you start doing that. And then I might duck
Mm.
my head down. I might quiver my lip a little bit. I might play with my hands. And then I might ask them, how do you think I felt when we were playing that game? And instead of saying good game, like thanks for playing with me, you just started screaming about how you were such a good winner and haha, you lost. And how did that make me feel?
Mm.
Um, and then they start, oh, that made you upset. Oh yeah, it did make me upset. Do you think I'm gonna want to play with you again?
Right.
Well, no. Okay, now let's replay a different situation. Now we're playing I just won. And you've been wanting to play this game for me for a while. You were so set on playing. I want you to act like losing was the end of the world. And so then they might, I can't believe you won, blah, 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 which is actually how they might actually act during the
Right.
game. And then I'm going to stop them and I'm going to say, look at everybody around you. Because usually in a setting, you have other people, or even if no one's around, pretend there are people around you. How do you think they might be looking at you? How do you think that the person who just played the game with you might be feeling? Do you think they might still want to play with
Mm-hmm.
you? Oh, probably not. What could we do instead? Give them questions to reflect on. Can you show me what you would do? And then in this case,
Mm-hmm.
you see what their knowledge, their base level is. Do they have the empathy to actually recognize what they're supposed to do in these situations? Do they have the skill set for it? Can they say, "Oh, good game. I'm so happy that you won," or "Oh, good game. It's okay. Like you can always try again." And if
Mm-hmm.
they can't do that, that is a teaching moment for you. And
Right.
that is the moment where you teach them, oh, here's what you can do in this situation. Let's practice that a few more times.
Mm-hmm.
So there's role playing. That's just a
I want
scenario,
to
but you
I
can do
want to
that with all.
jump I want to jump in on that scenario cuz it's like honestly I know you just kind of like picked it out of the blue, but I mentioned to you earlier I was playing basketball today and it was one of those days where my team did not win at all. And so it just like is really relatable for me that this wasn't something that was necessarily role played or even discussed when I would have like a blow up after a loss or a mistake or something like that. It was kind of pushed under the rug and just like we won't really like talk about it. But now it's still like kind of haunting me in ways here at 34 years old, you know? And I love that your invitation here is to not like set them up for failure and then try to solve it when they're really like losing their stuff in the heat of the moment, but to practice these things outside of the moment, you know, to really set them up for success in whatever area, you know, or in a safe space, really.
Right, right. And just like you mentioned in basketball, I mean, I'm glad that you bring that up because if you don't learn these skills at a young age, that's when you see high schoolers playing basketball, and then all of a sudden a fist fight is breaking out, and the coach is running on the basketball court to break everything up because those kids haven't learned how to appropriately separate um, things like winning and losing. And so that's why it's important that we teach them young. You know, you're not always going to win, you're not always going to lose, and cheating isn't going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's really cool for me when those sorts of moments happen where it's like really relevant and you know we're able to talk through these things because I think that's part of this conversation too, right? Like us adults are still growing and learning and we weren't necessarily taught these skills when we were young, which is why I'm sure you're passionate about it now. And one of the main reasons I'm passionate about it is because these are things that I think we can prevent a lot of the buildup or lack of skills, you know, through growing the skills, teaching the skills.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. So, in terms of like collaborations, parents collaborating with people like yourself, the school counselor, other teachers, and just the school space and community in general to reinforce social emotional learning skills, like how do you suggest people go about doing that? Why is that important and how is it effective?
So it's important for so many reasons. Consistency is key. So when your child enters school, the school based setting, you'll get questions like, why does my kid do that here? Why is his behavior so different at here and at home? How do I make sure that my child listens at home or vice versa? My kid would never do that here. Why is this happening at school? And it can become a little hostile if you don't have conversations from the minute that you start implementing things. So one, the consistency aspect, because you want to make sure that you're seeing the same behaviors in all settings, and obviously you want them to be positive. Communication is key. I always say, you know, parenting never comes with a book. And all kids are different. So something that might have worked for your first, let's say you're somebody who has, you know, 4 or 5 kids, something that worked with your first two probably didn't work with your last 2 or 3 or however many that you have. And there's because everybody is different. And so questions, please don't be afraid to ask questions to your stakeholders because community stakeholders, it's called community for a reason. And what I mean by community stakeholders is everybody on a child's team. So the school counselor, the teachers, the parents, and getting the kids involved and having them understand why you're doing what you're doing. If a parent really doesn't understand something after they've asked the question, model the parents should ask, you know, I still don't really understand what you're saying. Can you please model this for me?
Mm,
Because I want to make sure that I do it right. Now, I understand sometimes where parents get nervous or maybe shy or embarrassed,
right,
but that's the whole reason why people get into education, right? It's for student success. There is no silly or small question. Um, and it's honestly part of the educator's job to help everyone stay on the same page. And I think
right.
it's important to remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that reminder for people. Like, it's okay. It's not a stupid or silly question. Like, this is everybody working towards the same goal of raising this kid to be successful, healthy, and a positive member of society, you know? Have there been any moments or like what are some of the main things that parents might come to you with for help that you could share here, you know, and maybe get ahead of the curve for some parents?
So, a lot of parents come and ask about, my child has a hard time making friends. And I'm not understanding why they're having a hard time making friends. And then you see the child and you recognize that the child has a hard time taking turns or respecting people's decisions or understanding boundaries. And so in that case, you say it in a more, you can't just like, I'm not just going to tell a parent your kid doesn't understand boundaries. That's not an appropriate way to say that, and it's not fair. But this gives specific examples. This is what I am seeing, X, Y, and Z. And this is how I'm handling it in the classroom. And I think that if we put two kiddos together, positive peer, and have them start to really learn those skills on how to build friendships and relationships, you'll start seeing that, widely throughout their relationships. And then as the teacher, you can help support that. And then if you take your kid to the park and you notice that they are having a hard time, like a kid is saying, no, I don't want to play tag, or no, I don't want you to touch me, but we can do this. You can model, oh, okay, did you hear what she said to you? Here's what we should do instead. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you're kind of putting the things that you shared earlier with the role play, or, pairing that with some of the feedback from what's going on in school, from the teachers that are with your kid. How many hours a day? 7, 8,
Right.
like a long time. So they're getting a lot of good feedback too. And those might be scenarios that your kid's not getting a ton of at home, right? Being around a ton of different kids, being a little tired and not necessarily being able to take a nap, or, whatever the case may be.
Right.
Yeah, I really appreciate you breaking that down. Are there any other other things that we haven't talked about today, other skills, other practices that parents can do with their kids at home, for whatever other challenges you might think of?
So there's a couple of things. One, I think it's important that parents really need to remember that even if it feels personal, every behavior has a reason. Kids just don't do things to get under your skin. There are no such things. Every single thing that somebody does, there's a reason for it. And the three main functions of behavior are attention seeking. So they're, trying to get positive or negative attention. If they can't get the positive, they'll seek out the negative. So really making sure that the things that you want them to do, you praise them for that. It doesn't have to be verbal praise. Not every kid likes verbal praise, but it might just be, hey, I recognize that you did that. Thanks for doing that, man. It doesn't have to be big. Or you can, if it's your kids like celebrations, then celebrate it. Oh my gosh, you took out the garbage today. You're so awesome. Thank you. The second reason for behavior is escape maintained behavior. So kids will act out because they don't want to do something. So you might notice during homework time, instead of doing their homework, all of a sudden they have decided to pick a fight with their sibling. They've decided to pick a fight with you. They've decided to do everything under the moon to maybe bother you. Try to, make it seem like they're trying to get under your skin, but it's not that they're trying to do that. They're trying to escape doing their homework. So taking a step back and saying, hey, are you feeling nervous about doing this? Do you not understand how to do it? Do you want me to help you? I could sit down and help you. I can help you. Do you need help organizing your stuff? Where can we get started? Right. And then the last reason for behavior is typically the more difficult one to navigate. And that's just like basic needs, right? So if a kiddo is hungry, if a kiddo is really tired, if a kiddo is sick, you might see an uproar of behavior. And especially when they're really little, you might have no idea why. You're like, why?
Right.
I thought that I fed you enough. I thought that you slept enough. Why are you acting this way? And that might be really hard for you to pinpoint. But just recognizing like, okay, I've done this today. I've done that today. Is there anything that I might have missed? And if there's not, let me go back and try again. Like, let me refeed. Let me see if you need a snack. Maybe you didn't get enough snack today. Maybe they're growing. Maybe, things of that nature.
Yeah. And I've even heard there's moments, I forget the specific term, but somebody was on here and called it out in that moment that it's really sometimes you just can't there's no meeting a need in that moment. There's nothing you can actually do. They just need to like kind of cry it out, and that might be a legit
They
stage
need
or
to
a
feel
place
it.
that they're in. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I think I was cutting you off. No, I was just saying, yeah, for no, 100%. And sometimes we just have feelings and we need to feel them. And it's like you said, in those moments, though, my best piece of advice is to be as quiet as possible. Because if you're, let's say you're really upset and I'm trying to talk to you and I'm like, hey, buddy, you're not listening to anything that
Mm-hmm.
I am saying.
Mm-hmm.
Everything around you, your mind is already chaotic. Your insides are already chaotic. When you're angry, when you're upset, it does not feel good internally. And as for us as adults, but even especially with those little tiny bodies, and then
Right.
pairing that with someone consistently talking to you, talking to you, talking to you, trying to regulate you, it will not help you calm down.
No, no, there
You need
that
simple
process.
sentences, more space.
Yeah, that processing part of the brain is just not online in that moment. I really appreciate that advice. Just be quiet. And I think that's the co-regulation piece, right? Like calming your own energy, lowering the tone, slowing it down, and kind of creating that energy in the room, from your nervous system to theirs. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Love that,
So
Melanie.
that's my advice.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And is there any place like that you suggest parents go for more resources or other tips or maybe even practices or anything like that you found helpful?
I think it all depends on what's going on with your kiddo.
Hmm.
But you can always ask your school for services that are in your state. So, for example, in Nevada, we have the harbor. And what the harbor is it's like a hub. So you go there, you call them, you ask them, I want my kid to have an assessment to see if, there's an underlying cause for these things. I want my kid to, seek out therapy. So, or family therapy, or so we can all communicate. Um, I just want resource books, things like that.
Right.
That's from a place called the Harbor here. There's probably
Hmm.
something like that in majority of the states.
Right.
Um, so, and then finding, foundations, looking for mentorships. Like here in Nevada, we have the Boys and Girls Club, and they give out, mentors for children who might need, more support.
Hmm.
So just seeking out to your local agencies, your schools can definitely help direct you in the right
Yeah,
way.
I love that, and it feels so simple and so natural. You're already tapped into this resource. Just ask the questions, for the support from your school, and they do have these connections and resources that are existing. Most schools would. Melanie, thank you so much once again for your time today. Is there any place where people can reach out to you or follow up with you if they have any additional questions?
Yeah, I have a Facebook and I have an Instagram, and my Instagram is just Melly, Melly, with three underscores and then Mel. My bio says educator, adventurer, and then mama on it.
Hmm.
And
Nice.
then my name on Facebook is Melanie Rose Waters.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Melanie, thank you so much for your time and energy today. Really appreciate you sharing everything that you did and just offering, some of your skill set knowledge to everybody who listened in today.
Thank you so much for your time and for having me. This is a topic I'm passionate about, and I really loved being here today.
Awesome. We'll see you again, Melanie.
Okay, bye.